Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be breaking down the Recusant for the Separatists for Star Wars Armada, and we're going to be looking at the ship card, some of the titles available for it, and some different build options. So if you guys are new here to the channel, I do have a lot of Armada videos. You should definitely check out my Discord, as well as a couple of other links that are going to be down in the video description below. Also, we're giving away a lightsaber still, so you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that to enter to win that lightsaber. Also, head over to Crabbok.com for more information and all of that other good stuff. But yeah, and I'm going to have some links over towards the end of the video if you want to check out some more great Armada content. So hopefully you like what you see, and if you like this and you think this type of video is helpful, I'd love to hear from you. So let's talk about the Recusant. You've seen it in the Clone Wars, you've seen it on the big screen. It's a large ship for the Separatists. It's a fairly reasonably costed large ship for the Separatists. It comes in two varieties, the Light Destroyer and the Support Destroyer. It's the only large ship in the game currently that has an evade token natively to it. It has a brace, also a redirect, and a salvo, like most Clone Wars ships tend to have salvo. It's actually fairly agile even at speed 3, which makes for kind of a nimble ship. It could have almost been a medium ship in terms of kind of how it's point costed and how it behaves. It's still a 3 command ship, though, a 3 engineering ship, and can either have either 2 or 3 squadron value. 8 hull kind of makes it feel like it's on the slimmer end of the large ships or on the fatter end of the medium ships. It's definitely a ship that can be destroyed pretty quickly, not having a defensive retrofit and not only having 1 brace token. So it's definitely a vulnerable heavy ship, but it's still got enough shields and hull to kind of allow it to survive long enough. It's very much of a gunship. It's very much a destroyer, but in a lot of ways it's still moderately versatile. So it's not necessarily the jack of all trades that the Assault Frigate Mark II is for the Rebels, but it's kind of close to that, leaning a little bit more into the gunship role. One thing it lacks that a lot of heavy ships tend to have is heavy shield presence as well, in that it only has 3 on the sides, 3 in the front, and 2 in the rear. It definitely has the shields that feel a little bit more like a medium ship, but hopefully it can stay alive long enough to do what you need it to do. So one of the most unique things about this ship, not only is it the only large ship with an evade natively, but it also has a very unique firing arc. Its front is wide open over here, as you can see, and that allows for it to have taking advantage of that front arc like no other ship can, even more so than Star Destroyers with their big front arc can't compete with the massive front arc of this ship. It's almost a flat, almost 180-degree front arc. It's very, very close to that, so it's just up a little bit, and that allows for you to really take advantage of that front arc, and that's going to influence some of the build ideas that you might have for it. We're going to talk about some of those here in just a moment, but it also can allow for some very interesting and potentially tricky double arc shots. So, but the front arc is really the king for this ship. And that's a very fun thing to be able to do, and it'll definitely allows you to influence the way you're going to fly, especially with as maneuverable as it is. It's not that hard to keep people in the front arc. This tends to be a ship that is usually lives or dies by its titles as well, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit. But let's talk about the differences between the two ships as well. So first off, we're going to talk about the Light Destroyer. The Light Destroyer is only 85 points. It's the cheaper version. It's honestly really good for its point cost. You've got 4 red in the front, 2 black in the front. You've also got 3 red and a black on each sides, and a red and a black in the rear. Not the strongest for salvo, because a lot of times you'll only get that 1 die out of it, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. For the Light Destroyer, we get only a single blue anti-squadron value and only a single or a double of 2 for the squadron capability. For our upgrades, we have a turbo laser, an ordnance, a offensive retrofit, a weapons team, and an officer. So not the most, not the heaviest kind of list of upgrades either. These can be run pretty lightly, or they can be run kind of Patriot Fist style, which I'll talk a little bit more later on. When we look at the support destroyer, we have a little bit more capability here. We increase our anti-squadron die up to a red, so we have better anti-squadron firepower. We're outfitted to be a carrier a little bit more with we increase up to 3 squadrons here, and we gain some blue dice on this version. We have 3 red, 2 blue, and a black in the front, a little bit more of a longer range attack platform, 3 red and a blue on each of the sides, and a red and a blue in the rear, so that would also make your salvo a little bit more likely to maximize its dice potential. Our upgrades are a little different, though. We miss out on some black dice upgrades, so that black die on the front is kind of just going to be hoping for luck. So you do have a turbo laser, 2 offensive retrofits, a weapons team, and the officer upgrade slot. For titles, we are going to have 3 different titles that are available with this ship. We have the Nova Defiant at 4 points. This is your cheapest title. The Nova Defiant starts with 4 command tokens on it, 1 of each, and you do this when you deploy. You must choose 1 of each for this card. Your command value also gets increased to 4. That is going to make it a little more difficult for you to plan commands. This is usually a negative thing, but it also does mean that you can have up to 4 command tokens. And the Nova Defiant title is all about tokens. It says you can be assigned more than 1 of each command token. That's another rule breaker. Normally you're capped at like 1 engineering or 1 concentrate fire. When you reveal a command, you may discard all of the tokens from this card to gain them. So this is a big battery. And this was maybe a card that might not have seemed that flashy years ago, but in the rise of certain commanders that give out tokens, and as well as with the Clone Wars heavy reliance on tokens, this is actually a really nice kind of jack-of-all-trades type of title that certainly works well with a ship that is very well rounded. So this is just an all-around good title. I think a lot of people starting out with this ship would do very well with a title like this. You're going to have that command value of 4, and whenever you need tokens, you can reveal your command, boom, pop this, now you've got 4 tokens. Now, you don't want to do this if you've already got tokens, generally, because you're still going to be limited to 4 tokens, but you can have more tokens than 1 of the same type. So if you've already got an engineering token and you pop this, you might say, hey, I'm going to keep another engineering token, a nav, and a concentrate fire, but I don't need squadrons right now, so I'll drop that one. So you might end up with something like that. It's entirely possible. Or you could pop this pretty early and then and start using tokens and maybe stockpiling some. Maybe you want to have a couple of extra engineering tokens for later on. You're still only allowed to spend 1 at a time, but you can use those to fuel other things. And so depending on what type of upgrades you have, you may want to spend tokens to fuel some of those upgrades. So that is a nice part. And it's only 4 points too, so it gives you a nice boost for maybe mid-game is when a lot of people will do this. Maybe when you've taken some damage, you've got some squadrons you need to activate, you need something for you want some rerolls for concentrate fire, and you maybe also want to adjust your speed all in the same turn. And that can be surprisingly swingy if you do get that many tokens out there. Moving up to this next title, we have the Gilded Aegis at 5 points. It's a little more expensive. This one says, at the end of the command phase or ship phase, you may discard a redirect defense token to move shields to 1 of your hull zones. If you do, the number of shields in that zone cannot exceed a maximum of 6. You cannot recover shields in that zone while it is greater than its maximum shield value. So a couple of things about this title. We've seen effects like this before. It's not the first time, but it's still a rare occurrence for something to push shields above their printed maximum value. And this lets you do just that. So, like, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can consider starting out at the beginning of the game saying, boom, I'm going to drop this token, and I'm going to push all my shields to the front. And then all of a sudden you might have 6 shields in the front. You still have to have the shields elsewhere on the ship to be able to transfer them, so you're not getting free shields out of this, you're just relocating shields. But where this is nice, especially on a ship that doesn't have that many shields, is if somebody gets behind you, or maybe some ship pulls up alongside you, maybe a demolisher or something like that, and they're going to go first next turn, and you're afraid that you're going to take some really nasty black dice on an unshielded side, and maybe you've got shields on the other side. well, you can get rid of your redirects token, pull those all from the other side, push them over to here, even if it takes you past your maximum. Especially good if you know somebody has only one arc of yours that they can shoot at. If they can only shoot at one hull zone, it's also really good for maybe the last turn of the game if you're almost certain to be destroyed and you're like, hey, I'm going to pop this now, and now I'm going to move all those shields. An interesting thing about this one is this one can, if you have ways to get that redirect token back, because you only have one on a Recusant, you can potentially do this multiple times. Now, of course, you'd have to, you'd have to do some really fancy, clever mechanics to be able to, continue to do engineering tokens, regenerate shields elsewhere, and all this stuff. So you cannot recover shields in that whole zone when it's greater than its maximum value, but you can still recover shields other places, and maybe through something like General Grievous as your commander, potentially being able to get a token back, and then you discard it again. Now, you don't want to do this too early because shields and redirect tokens kind of work hand in hand, so it's very risky to get rid of your redirect only to then have all your shields in one spot, and if your opponent has other shots on you, then you won't be able to redirect. So it's definitely for like kind of a niche case when you actually want to pop Gilded Aegis, unless, of course, you have Grievous or some other method to get defense tokens back. Moving on to our most expensive and, in my opinion, definitely most popular title. It's the Patriot Fist at 6 points. This is my favorite of the three, and it's definitely very, very deadly. While attacking a ship at medium to long range, if this is your first attack during your activation, you may add 2 blue dice to your attack pool. If you do, you cannot attack again during this activation. So it's pretty straightforward. If you're only going to attack one time, you get 2 bonus dice. Now, this also stacks with anything else that's also adding dice to you. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to do this with salvo. It's during, you have to be doing it during your activation. But this is also good if by taking advantage of that big front arc, if you're not trying to attack twice. And a lot of times, unless you're running gunnery teams, you're probably not attacking twice out of the front arc. You might not have 2 attacks at all. So, this is just a really, really great way to maximize that one shot, because there are plenty of times where maybe you do have gunnery team or some way to attack multiple times out of an arc, but just don't have that second shot lined up. So this one really maximizes the one shot, and it's adding blue dice to a ship that doesn't have a whole lot of blue dice, and so it allows you to maybe get that accuracy, especially when you might need it if you get some double damage on your reds and blacks. And so it's a really, really potent card, and it combos well with a lot of other nasty, nasty things that this ship can do. So let's talk about some ways that you can build this ship. Now, first off, I'm going to go with something kind of simple. It was maybe one of the first things that I thought of when I saw the Recusant, and that's just to run the light destroyer with that has the most red dice. We've got 4 red in the front. I like long range attacks. I like long range attacks, especially if they're supplemented by other things in the fleet. And this has weapons team, so you can put gunnery team, really take advantage of that front arc, and have spinal armament on the ship as well. And that, of course, gives you a very, very powerful front shot, especially if you do concentrate fire, which you would need for gunnery team. That's going to give you 6 red, and you're going to have such a wide arc. You have a very good chance of being able to have multiple targets, especially if they're at long range. Depending on your commander, you could even get more dice than that. So that is also very exciting, but it's kind of basic, right? If you're running 3 Recusants, you might run something kind of like this. You might have a lot of shots. Who knows? But we'll get into some specific titles, kind of builds now. So let's talk about the Gilded Aegis, right? This is, I have it set up on a support destroyer in here because this is maybe something that is going to be commanding some squadrons. You definitely don't want it to die. I have General Grievous, maybe either with this fleet or on board this ship. We have Sand Hill, who is going to give you some squadron capability and some extra squadron stuff. We also have the hyperwave signal boost on there. Again, kind of taking advantage of the 3 squadron. Either one of those. I actually think you need both of them on the same build. But you also have turbo laser reroute circuits, which is a definite option for a ship like this. If it's going to be a carrier and it doesn't have a whole lot of fancy synergy for attack power, a very, very easy way to make a ship like this still very threatening, especially when it's got a built-in evade, is to put turbo laser reroute circuits on it. You're going to get great dice mitigation out of that. It turns a bad roll into at least a decent roll, and it turns a decent roll into a great roll. So turbo laser reroute circuits can be great, and there's not too many large ships that can take this. In fact, this is the only one that can really use it natively. So unless you're running something fancy like a Gate or Captain Nita, this is definitely an option for a Recusant. And then of course the Gilded Aegis is going to let you stay stay strong, especially if it is your flagship. And granted, the Recusant isn't always going to be a flagship and seldom going to be a flagship. But if you're running a bunch of small ships and maybe this is your highest hull ship, Gilded Aegis could definitely work for that. If you have a lot of squadrons and you have Grievous, you're going to have a very easy time making sure that you can get that redirect token back, and so that's really going to work pretty well with Gilded Aegis. Next up, we're going to look at the Nova Defiant build. So, taking advantage of tokens, I also have a support destroyer here, and one of the things that we're going to do with this particular build is kind of be well-rounded. I wanted to focus more on being well-rounded. It's got a little bit of carrier shenanigans here. We've got boosted comms and expanded hangar bay, right? So we got a command squadron value of 4, so we can do all kinds of really cool stuff with a squadron token. We have the T-Series tactical droid on this ship. Oh, well, that's going to be a great option to be able to turn any of our non-concentrate fire tokens into a full dial, and that's going to combo really, really well with Nova Defiant, because boom, hey, we have all 4 tokens now. Hey, no problem. T-Series is very happy to turn those into full dials for you. So that's really, really going to work out well, especially we'll now have squadron value of 4, and we can hit them at long range. It's going to work extremely well. And if you know what? The other cool thing is, once we pop Nova Defiant, we can then stockpile a couple of gunnery team tokens, right? Or concentrate fire tokens. We'll have an extra concentrate fire token from Nova Defiant. We don't even have to plan concentrate fire dials because we'll have an extra token for this. And maybe we do a concentrate fire early on to do gunnery team early, and then next turn pop Nova Defiant. We're attacking multiple times out of the front arc without even having to think too much, without even having to plan too much out of it. Linked turbo laser towers is going to be great for this variant of the ship, because not only do we get a reroll for our Reds, but our Reds is also working with the anti-squadron armament. It's got a red anti-squadron. This gives us a much better chance to actually attack enemy squadrons, which is really cool. And then I threw Martuk on here. He's kind of well rounded, and he's going to help you get an extra die when you're attacking a ship. So that's also pretty cool. Again, there's no commanders that really need to be on this ship, but Martuk's not bad. Not bad at all. Again, kind of the well-rounded. We were a little bit squadron-y and a little bit offensive for ships as well, with this T-Series kind of letting us also, letting us repair ourselves a little bit better. We just have a little bit of everything here. You probably want to plan a couple of nav dials in this build too. And let's talk about one of my favorite builds in the game, and definitely my favorite build of choice for the Recusant. This is kind of an all-in build for the Patriot Fist. Your commander for this particular build would be TF-1726, who gives you up to 2 black dice only once during your activation. You can only attack 1 time and get that bonus. If they have raid tokens on them, you can get 1 extra black die for each raid token of a maximum of 2, and since you're only attacking once anyway with Patriot Fist, this is perfect, right? So what are we doing with this particular build? Well, for this one, of course, I gave us the B2 rocket troopers. This is going to give a raid token. This is going to give us an extra black die, if we can. Look, B2 is good. For a build with a Patriot Fist like this with 1726, you're probably going to have a lot of ships with the B2 rocket trooper. So and hey, you can put one on here too. We put swivel mount batteries on here because we're going to take the black die from the side and shift it to the front. We're only getting 1 shot anyway. Let's put it on that arc that's super, super wide. So now we'll basically be rolling 4 red and a black die at long range if they already have raid tokens, we're going to be rolling 2 or even 3. And if we have a concentrate fire command, we can get 4 black dice at long range. That's extremely, extremely deadly and extremely annoying to your opponents. That's one of the reasons we put Intel Officer on there, because we don't necessarily have the most, the most dice and the best chance of getting accuracies. Now, Patriot Fist is also going to give us some beautiful things like 2 blue dice, so we're gonna really roll. You can roll a lot with this. It's a big fistful of dice. You can really roll 10 dice, I think, with this. 1, 2, 3, 4 red, 2. Hold on a second. It's so many, I'm losing track. It's like 10 dice with this thing. It's absolutely insane. So you do have so many black dice that you're rolling. We put Ordnance Experts. Again, we're not running Gunnery Team here. We don't want that with Patriot Fist. Ordnance Experts lets us reroll 2 black. We're going to have at least 2 black on just about every shot. Now, Patriot Fist is only going to work at the medium and long range, but that's no problem, because if they get close to you, well, then you get to throw your actual 2 black on there as well. So that's where the beauty comes in. And assault concussion missiles is just even more damage. So this is just a super fun build. But if you run this, your opponent's going to make this their #1 priority, because this becomes the biggest threat on the board, and this won't probably live to past turn 4, maybe not even past turn 3, because they're going to come at this thing hard. And again, this is where the fact that it only has 3 shields in the front, and then only the 1 brace, and no defensive retrofit, and only the 1 brace, this is where this begins to fall apart, because this ship will go down very, very fast under multiple, under repeated fire, whereas certain other large ships do not. And yeah, so I'd love to hear from you guys what you think of some of these build ideas for some of the different titles, and some of my thoughts on the Recusant for Star Wars Armada. I'll be doing some more of these. If you like this type of video, let me know down in the comments. I'll be doing more ship breakdowns. I used to do this years ago, and I thought this would be a good time to get back into doing ship breakdowns. And well, I'll see you next time. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the team, check out the links in the description below. I will talk to you soon. And as always, make sure your shoes go on your feet and your hat goes on your head, because if you wear shoes on your head, you're going to look silly.